Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you've had a really great convention. We certainly have. And I would actually like to just start with a round of applause for the organisers, please, because I think they've done an amazing job. Now, to go against convention, I will briefly introduce myself. My name's Adam Roney. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Opis Group. We're a British blockchain technology company, and we build applications for cloud and for gaming that reward users for their participation. So just a very quick piece of audience involvement before I go much further. Hopefully 2 questions which are very easy to answer. Can you please raise your hand if you have a smartphone on you right now? Okay, breathe a sigh of relief. Can you keep your hand raised if you think that this evening you're going to have to charge it? Okay, perfect. Hopefully by the end of this presentation, I'll have explained why, by doing that simple activity, you can join a revolution and actually help the environment in the same process. Okay, so technology. We're in a position where we're getting increasing usage of digital services. I know we're talking about Web 3, but Web 2 is alive and well, and it's continuing to grow year on year in addition to Web 3. So e-commerce is still a huge developing area. Online streaming is now accounting for hundreds and hundreds of tons of carbon in terms of environmental impact. And that's before we get to Web 3 and the obvious impact that blockchain and related technologies have as well. All of this comes with an increased issue for us, increased requirements for data storage and for data transfer. And an interesting way of thinking about it is that every time you take a convention selfie, send a WhatsApp to organize a meeting, or even send an email, you're actually creating something that has a carbon footprint, that has an impact on the environment. And that's something I want us to talk about. And lastly, we've got an increasing number of connected devices. Smartphones, smartwatches, smart cars, smart glasses, and beyond. In the next few years, this number will just continue growing exponentially. And this brings with it a number of environmental challenges that we really need to think about. So what's the impact in technological terms? Well, it means that we need more servers to deal with the data transfer requirements. We need to have these servers be stored in locations, data centers, purpose-built with enough power, enough cooling, enough security to deal with them. And all of this means that we're drawing down more electricity. Now, to put this in context for you, a single data center broadly consumes the same amount of electricity as 50,000 homes. That's 50,000 homes, which is absolutely remarkable. In fact, the cloud industry and the data center footprint now accounts for more carbon annually than the airline industry does in totality. So when you sit on your plane on the way home, if you flew to come here and you WhatsApp someone, strangely, the WhatsApp potentially has a bigger carbon impact than actually being on the plane. To bring this home in terms of where we are at the moment, there are 125 data centers in Spain. And in fact, that number is set to increase over the coming years as more telcos and technology providers open more data centers. So this number will increase. Now, those of you very quick with maths might be able to do the equation I'm about to share. But ultimately, that equates for nearly 6.2 million homes worth of electricity in Spain alone, just from the existing domestic data center usage. That's not counting, obviously, the global footprint. What's driving this? Well, going back to my first question about smartphones, they're a huge part of the issue. There are 1.4 billion smartphone sales annually, and that number's set to increase, and many of you in here, in fact, will have multiple devices that require charging. So on the one hand, you can look at that and say, that's an environmental issue and something that we really need to think about carefully. When we were doing our research for our company and building our solutions, there was something interesting that we discovered, though. Taking the US as an example, around 90% of people actually spend 6 hours or less every day on their smartphones. Now, I'm certainly not advocating we spend much more than that. I think being stuck on our phones all day is not healthy. But if you think about that for a second, that leaves around 18 hours where actually the phone is basically doing nothing. Now, the US market's pretty large, but if you track these numbers through, this equates to around 265 million devices that have about 18 hours worth of idle CPU time per day. What's interesting about that is that the most powerful device that you probably own is your smartphone. Year on year, increasing CPU capability, increasing GPU capability, increased battery life, and an upgrade cycle through annualized or 24-month contracts means that's probably the most up-to-date piece of technology you have. And for us, that posed a really interesting question. With 4.8 billion daily hours of unused compute time in the US alone, what could we do with that if we could harness it and do something interesting, something that might help the environment or something that might even address this cloud compute issue I was talking about at the beginning? This led us to develop our platform, Opis Cloud. Opis Cloud is currently being built for Android smartphones, and it will be released later this year. Simple download from the Google Play Store, and it's completely free. By downloading and using this application, you will actually be joining a mobile phone-based supercomputer. By charging that phone at night and leaving this application running, we will be able to execute remote compute tasks on your phone as part of a grid network, making you part of this supercomputer that I'm talking about. Now, initially, the types of activity that we're going to start with are probably in the tech for good space. So helping charities solve scientific problems. That could be protein synthesis or protein folding, or helping discover new cancer treatments, or looking at environmental statistical analysis, for example. But in time, we're going to use the same technology to build out commercial use cases. So if you were a financial services provider, for example, you could use our distributed cloud compute platform to actually process financial transactions, undertake fraud analysis, and at the more extreme end of the spectrum, potentially even do things such as building AI models on this remote compute grid. The benefit to the clients is ultimately far cheaper cloud compute capability than a traditional cloud provider. And the benefit for the users is obviously they get rewarded in cryptocurrency, and at the same time, they're helping the environment. So going back to where I kind of started, I think everybody put their hand up and said they have a smartphone, and I'm glad everybody put their hand up and said it needs charging. So once this product is launched, which is actually later this year, simply by plugging in your phone, charging at night, you will be able to join this global grid, help the environment, do tech for good, and be rewarded in the process. So if you'd like more information about this, please head over to opiscloud.io. I'm happy to obviously answer questions at the end, but thank you so much for your time and attention. I know that cocktail hour follows this, so this is a tough slot, but I really appreciate it, and I hope you'll join us on the revolution. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you, Adam. Do we have any questions? Yes, one there. Two. Oh. Yeah, shout.
Is data anonymization an issue? If it's financial data being sent to my phone, is it an issue? Is it going to be an issue for an institution?
So the question is data anonymization an issue, by which I think you sort of broadly mean data security as well? Yeah, it absolutely is an issue, and I could probably spend more time afterwards explaining in detail, but there's a number of ways that we approach it. But one of the best ways of thinking about it is that no node in the network has a full data set. So there's a decentralized abstraction that's happening there. And the second thing is that on the actual devices themselves, we're effectively running a secure encrypted enclave. So you can't actually get to that data in a normal sense. So the title of the topic was about, obviously, decentralization. And so really we're playing off the trend that actually people are trusting decentralized technologies and encryption much more than they have done before. And we're going to leverage that basically to do the cloud compute that I'm referring to in this product.
Hey, just a quick question in terms of the environmental impact for it all. We've got, if the app is being left open overnight and you're doing that, isn't there then also a huge amount of data going back and forth, and that doesn't then sort of offset the, the benefit of not charging things?
Yeah, sure. So that's a really great question. So the data, sorry, I'm British, so I have to say data. The data throughput is relatively low. This is not peer-to-peer, it's decentralized. But if you think about peer-to-peer, almost like file sharing or transfers, like the throughput is actually relatively low. The packet sizes are very manageable. We're not talking terabytes of data moving around between single devices. And in fact, it's probably comparable to the amount of data a phone is syncing back to a photos provider or a cloud address book provider. So we're trying to keep that manageable, not just for the data usage you're talking about, but also for power consumption as well.
Great. Any more? Oh, another question. Can you shout it or?
So the question was, when will the Opis cloud app be available? So we're hoping to have the first version out later this year, and that will be the community projects version that I've been referring to in terms of science and tech for good projects that we'll be distributing, with the commercialized version to follow later and early next year.
Any other?
Hi. Could you just expand a little more on this rewarding part that seemed interesting, like rewarding in crypto? I'm just not sure if I got it, like how it works 100%. Because you said what's in it for the user, right? Where you said the user is being rewarded in crypto. Could you expand a little bit on that, or tell me how it works, a little more in detail?
Yeah, of course. So essentially what happens is you can set up your account and define how many hours of units effectively that you want to process. We know that not everybody will want to run this all the time. You may schedule a period of hours that you want the app to be running, or a certain amount of time. And basically, for every full unit of work that's completed for each of the projects you're subscribed to, you will receive cryptocurrency tokens in exchange. So there will be a direct connection between the effort that you're putting in effectively and the reward that we're paying back, and that's on a per work unit basis.
Okay, thanks. But cryptocurrency tokens, a new cryptocurrency type or established currencies on the market? That's also just interesting for me to know.
Yeah. So we're actually launching a new cryptocurrency to accompany this. It's a cryptocurrency which is going to be used across all of our group applications. So it will be interchangeable with the other products and services that Opis Group is launching both later this year and early next.
Yeah, I think I have some more questions, but perhaps I can just visit you at the booth later or something like that, not to drain too much time.
At the glass of cava now, yes. Cool. Very nice.
Last one, maybe?
I don't know.
I'm just postponing my farewell talk.
Yeah, we need to see farewell as well, Daniel.
Any last question, or that's it? I'm listening to some music behind. I think the DJ started already.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
I'm gonna download the app. Thank you, Adam.